one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could all remain standing for a moment of silent reflection, I just ask that you keep Trooper Pelletier in those thoughts as well, please. All righty, thank you. Looking for a motion to approve our minutes from our last meeting on April 16th, 2024.
Make a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner discussion, subcommittee reports, any subcommittee reports from any commissioners? All right, see, no, we did have an economic strike force meeting recently that I was not in attendance for I don't even know why it happened, but Jeremy was there. Jeremy, you want to just briefly touch on what happened there?
Yeah, the primary portion of the agenda was a presentation from a company called Placer AI, and they did a demonstration on their product. And then we also had Gary Brummett, who's a realtor in town, discuss a potential zone change at, I'm not going to remember the addresses, but there's 3 parcels up on the northern end of West Street that are for sale currently. And he's contemplating a change of zone from B to I-2 on a portion of those. The total acreage is about 9 acres. And he would convert about 6 to 7 of those to the I-2 zone.
Okay, well, we'll see where those go. So, and then the other thing we have on our agenda is a legislative update. Believe it or not, we've not been together since the legislature adjourned in the early part of May. And Jeremy did circulate, after him and I had some conversation, a memo about some of the actions of what occurred. That was sent out to everybody on May 10th, I believe. Jeremy, you want to just go over that for us real quick, please?
Sure, I'll be brief. I won't go through the whole thing. I'll let you read it for yourselves. There's 2 portions that I'll highlight. Section 3 of the legislation, which was House Bill 5474. It's since been given a public act number, but I don't have that off the top of my head. Section 3 talks about, of the legislation, requires that municipalities allow the conversions of existing nursing homes to multifamily dwelling units. The concept is that if you have a nursing home that's been vacant for more than 90 days and is essentially unusable for one reason or another, that the municipality would allow it to be converted in its state, so no additions to the building, no demolition to the building, no major changes to the site, but in its existing state to be allowed to convert to multifamily residential. And the second piece of that is that the community has to allow it to be converted to multifamily residential, even if it's being changed on the site, but we can do that as a special permit or something of the like if we choose to. So I've talked with the chairman, and I'm in the process of drafting up some language for you to consider going forward. The legislation doesn't become effective until October 1st, so we've got some time to play with that. And then the other portion of it that I'll just discuss real briefly is sections 10 through 12, which talk about middle housing. It's a change to the calculation within the 830G legislation, which is the affordable housing requirements. And it allows municipalities to take it allows you to take some percentage of your middle housing, which is 3 and 4 units, sort of denser developments, not hugely dense, but 2 and 3 units, 4 units in one, and get credit for those towards your affordable housing needs. So you have the 10% requirement set out in 830G, and I'm not doing a good job explaining this, so you should probably read my memo because I think it does a better job. But for each of those middle housing units you have in a zone that allows them by right, you get a 1/4 point. It's a little bit nuanced, but that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, and I'll just say that I did have conversations with Representative Poulos and Senator Sampson leading up to that, on that topic of middle housing and getting some type of credit with regards to our affordable housing number, which I was in favor of because I thought it was a creative way to sort of give us benefit of what we have already. Although I did ask the question of whether it's retroactive or if it's only prospective, so if it's only moving forward or whether we would count what we have already. And we haven't quite clarified that yet, and the language didn't state either. So I'm not quite sure where that sits, but maybe there's a language change that needs to be made in the implementer legislation that comes forward at some time in the future. So, but with that, I thought you did a good job. And And I'll give you an idea of some of the middle housing just close to me, right? Right up here on Hobart Street, we have some of that right there. I think 2 houses down from me is a multifamily house that would qualify as qualifies as middle housing. So you don't really notice them unless you notice them. But they are out there. We do have them in the town. And as I talked to Jeremy about it during the session, it is something that we allow as a right as well already. So it's not something that we really need to do a change on, I don't think. Again, the question is just whether it's prospective or retroactive to what we have already. So we'll figure that one out at some time in the future. So the only other thing that I'll add is that Jeremy and I have had some conversations about some regs that need some tweaking. We'll call. I won't go into specifics about it, although I'm happy to talk to any of you who would like to talk about it. It's not anything earth-shattering. It's more of a cleaning up, if you will, and I've asked him to sort of put together some of that and have conversations with staff about that. So we'll be bringing those forward sometime, I would imagine at the earliest, maybe August, September range. But that's my perspective right now. It may be earlier, maybe later. I don't know. It depends. But we are having those conversations internally as well right now. With that, anything else from any other commission member or staff member who want to share with us right now? Steve?
Is that over and above, we just had the regs reworked and we had our plan, and is this in addition to that, things that were missed, or is it just things that have arisen since that point?
I think it's a little bit of both, and Jeremy, fill me in if I misstate this or if I leave something out. So it does include some things that were left out. For example, food trucks, I think were left out of the regulation modification that we did less than a year ago. So it's trying to take what we had and moving that into our current regulations. But I think that there are some other things too. Open space subdivisions, I think that Jeremy has come to me and asked me to make some tweaking on that to change it a little bit. And I have a draft. It is a very rudimentary draft, which we're going to be talking about sometime in the next couple of weeks, just to go through and sort of get some perspective on. So it's a little bit of both to answer your question. Is that accurate, Jeremy?
I would agree.
Yeah. I think Alex has been involved in this as well as Dave LaValle,
Yep.
right?
Very good.
All right.
Thank you.
And as I said, I'm happy to talk to any of you if you want to talk about specifics or if you have something that you're thinking about, by all means. My preference, as I said to Jeremy, is to try to deal with this wholesomely as opposed to piece by piece by piece, because I think that gets a little bit too much.
Well, from my perspective, the 2 points you mentioned should have been addressed in the first go-round. The open spaces created nothing but problems for us moving from past to now, and the food trucks are a reality. They're here to stay. We need to have guidelines moving forward,
Yeah.
so we don't always have to talk about them.
Yeah.
Everyone agree?
I'm with you.
Okay. With that, if no one has anything else, we'll move on to we'll skip to item number 8. We don't have any public hearing scheduled for tonight, but item number 9 under our business meeting, item 9A, Java Junction LLC site plan application for proposed Aroma Joe's drive-through quick service coffee shop, property located at 279 Queen Street. This is a business zone, SPR 1878. Jim, before I open it up, and I'll ask you to state, and anyone state their name and address before they start talking, just for the record, so we get that. There are a couple people in the audience who I spoke to prior to tonight's meeting who came here from Southington Manor, which is an adjacent property. They were, I'm sorry? Queen Terrace, I apologize. They were erroneously informed by their management that they would have the right to speak tonight. It is a site plan. We don't take public input on a site plan. What I've suggested to them is listen to the dialogue up here from us. If there's something that that you feel we've missed, by all means, have a conversation with planning staff at some time in the future. The applicant is here, and I think that in the interest of the community that we are in Southington, I think that they would be open to having a conversation with you as well to try to address any concerns that you have. Although I'm not going to speak for them, I'll leave that to them. They're certainly capable for talking to themselves. With that, Mr. Cassidy, I hand it to you, sir.
Good evening,
Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm a soft talker, so.
I got you.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Jim Cassidy. I'm a professional engineer and principal with the firm of Howell C. Pearson and Cassidy. My office is located at 630 Main Street in Cromwell, Connecticut. With me this evening is the applicant, Mark McGregor, from Java Junction. We're here before you this evening seeking a site plan approval for the development of property at 279 Queen Street, presently owned by 279 Queen Street LLC, for a new Aroma Joe's quick coffee service and drive-through. As mentioned, the property is Zone B. I'm going to just flip a couple pages, hopefully, here. See if I can get your system to work. Yep, it's going to go this way. Okay. So the property itself outlined in blue on this plan, this is an existing site photo, consists of a total of 0.36 acres, again, Zone B. It is, sorry. The property outlined in blue on this plan is the property that's the subject property tonight. It consists of a total of 0.36 acres. It is located on the easterly side of Queen Street being the road running north and south on this photo. It is bounded, sorry, on the east and on the north by property of Queen Terrace Condos. It is bounded on the south by Southington Manor Condos. And then on the west, obviously, is Queen Street. The property presently is home to the Rita's Ice Cream or Italian Ice shop, which you can see by the small gray rectangle on this plan in this area here. That rectangle or that building footprint has a total area of about 870 square feet. Interesting enough, if you take a look at that location of the building, the entire building is actually forward of the 40-foot setback, building setback line, so it's very close to the road. To the south of the property, there is a bituminous parking area that was developed as part of the development of Rita's Ice Cream. There is a full access driveway off of Queen Street into that parking lot. That parking lot presently accommodates 21 parking spaces. To the rear of the ice cream store, there is a gravel parking lot with a driveway that goes out to the Queen Terrace Condos driveway. There is a cross-access easement to this property across that driveway in this location. It is proposed, as part of this application, the existing building would be removed. We are proposing to construct a brand-new building. Sorry. So we're going to remove the existing structure, which again is located right about here right now. We're going to be building a brand-new one-story structure. The total footprint is 1,001 square feet. It is designed to be a quick-serve coffee drive-through. It actually doesn't allow any of the public to enter the building. It primarily acts as a drive-through, but it will have a service window also. Access, we're proposing in the same location where it exists today, other than we'll be making some improvements to the existing driveway, such as it's a little bit narrow, it's about 20 feet wide now. It'll be increased to 24 feet to meet your standards. And also we'll be improving some of the drainage within that driveway. Access coming into the site would allow two-way access for a parking area out front. We're proposing a total of 10 parking spaces. In your zoning regulations, you do not have a specific requirement for parking for this type of use. So it's recommended that we use the ITE parking generation manual. And based upon a use code of 937, which is a coffee shop or donut shop with a drive-through, the recommended ratio is 10.4 spaces per 1,000 square feet. We are proposing a total of 10 spaces here, which we feel is more than adequate, seeing that, again, this building is not actually open to the public. This park can be more utilized for employees and anybody that wants to come and pick up something from the service window, which would be located on the south side of the building. So you would access through the main driveway. There'd be a driveway down the east side. This would provide access to two drive-through windows on the north side of the building. To the rear, there are two menu boards. There's a main menu board and there's a preview board also. We're also proposing to have a temporary shelter for an attendant if needed be. Important to know is that with these menu boards, it's different than going to such a place like a Dunkin' Donuts. There's no speaker system, there's no intercom system in the menu boards. What happens is a customer would drive up, they'd be able to view the menu board, they'd actually drive around the corner to the first window, and that's the order window. They continue on to the second window to pick up their order. So there's no noise that comes out of these menu boards, nothing that goes towards the neighboring properties. All transactions happen on that north side of the building. Customers will be able to continue around the building, and then continue back into the main access driveway, and then back out to Queen Street, either making a right or left turn. We are proposing it as a full access as it presently exists today. We tried to accommodate these drive-through lanes to be a little bit wider. They're actually 18 feet wide, just in case there needs to be a bypass. There's an adequate room to do that. We are proposing to utilize our access easement to the north just for an emergency escape lane. So we do have a driveway connection to that driveway, similar to the dirt parking area that exists today. We ultimately need to go to DOT for an encroachment permit for this project. One thing DOT is going to be looking at is to make sure we have adequate queuing. From the drive-through window all the way back to Queen Street, we have adequate queuing for 14 vehicles, which is a requirement of DOT to be able to have a drive-through. In addition to, in the back corner, we're proposing to have a concrete pad for our refuge service, so there'd be a recycling and a dumpster container on that. It's important to know, along this southerly side, we've actually taken the pavement, we're actually pulling it back from where it exists today. At a minimum, we're increasing the edge of pavement by 2.5 feet, so increasing the buffer on this side by 2.5 feet. But in many areas, we don't need the additional parking, so you'll see this large island area and additional green area out here. We're pulling it back an additional 18 feet, so we're actually increasing it by about 20.5 feet from what presently exists out there for buffering today. The east side, the edge of pavement would be in a similar location. There's actually remains of a retaining wall out there, so it's not going any further than that retaining wall. There's no further encroachment from where it is today. Utilities for this building are pretty simple in that, I don't know if you can see this. See if I can blow up here. So first of all, for storm drainage, a few things are going to happen. The existing driveway, if you can see my mouse here, there's an existing catch basin on the south side of the driveway. There's another catch basin on the north side of the driveway presently. As I mentioned, I need to widen the driveway to provide 24 feet. In the middle of the existing parking lot, there's actually an oversized pipe and a catch basin. This system is actually used, it was designed as a detention system when they developed the parking lot for Rita's. We're going to plan on reutilizing that to make sure that the flow is attenuated as it goes back into this system. So in particular, this catch basin here, it actually has a reduced inlet to it. It has a 6-inch inlet into it. So what it does is hold back the water, excess water in that 30-inch pipe. At the back of the site, I'm going to be installing a new catch basin to make sure that the water flows in a westerly direction from the condos down onto us. Is picked up within our driveway and then discharged to that existing catch basin. In addition to, because we do have a little bit more impervious coverage than is presently out there, we proposed along the entire front of the site, we have an underground infiltration system. This system is going to consist of about 32 feet of 4x4 concrete galleries. All the roof leaders for the new building will discharge into that and be allowed to infiltrate into the ground with a high level overflow that will continue off into that catch basin. For other utilities, water and sewer service, one of the nice things is there's actually a sewer line that comes up to the site. We're going to reutilize that sewer line from the street line, coming off it, providing a grease trap in this lawn area in front, and then coming all the way around to the back of the building with a separate sanitary and a separate waste line for the kitchen facility that goes to the grease trap. Similarly, there's a water lateral that comes off the driveway to the north. There's a shut-off at this location here. We'll be coming off of that with a 1.5-inch in surface and coming into the back of the building. and we also will be extending gas into the front of the building. So all utilities will be underground. There'll be new power service brought in underground to the building to a transformer in this upper or the front location. As we've gone through the review process, we have submitted a landscaping plan as part of our package. We did receive some initial comments on landscaping that we needed to add to it, so we've tried to beef it up. What we're proposing to put is a series of street trees along the entire frontage, so they're about every 50 feet on center. We're planning to plant a sugar maple. In the island areas for the parking lot, we're looking at putting more of an ornamental tree, such as a flowering dogwood. But there was also a request that we add a buffer, some type of evergreen hedgerow around the south and the east perimeter of the site. So the small green circles you see around the perimeter is a row of arborvitae. We're looking at planting a total of 27 arborvitaes around the south and then off to the east side of the site. I'll also note, in addition to, we had received some additional comments this afternoon, and there was a request. There was an initial request that we add a fence along this easterly boundary line, because the initial concern was with these menu boards, if they had a speaker system, the noise would filter into the adjoining property. But again, there's no speakers in these menu boards. In the request that we received, or the comments we received today, there's still a request that we add some kind of a solid fence. I talked to the applicant, and they agreed that we would install a fence. So starting at this point here, all the way down the south and all the way down the east, we're proposing to put a 5-foot-high solid vinyl fence along that whole side of the property. So with this development, the entire property becomes screened. Erosion and sediment control is also included in your package. One of the nice things, again, it's a relatively small site, but everything just draining off in a westerly direction towards Queen Street. We have existing catch basins, so we will be utilizing those catch basins, but they all will be protected with inlet protection during construction. The main driveway that exists today will be used as the construction entrance. In the initial comments we received, there was a request that we block off the driveway that goes to the adjoining cross-access driveway. So we did note on the plans there would be a temporary fence to ensure that no construction traffic goes out through that driveway during construction. Also, I'll note that as part of the review comments, there was a request along the downhill side. I had proposed to put staked hay bales. There was a request that we use straw wattles instead, which also has been updated and noted on the plan. The building itself, again, it's a one-story structure. It's a prototypical building, so this is a set of elevations that was included as part of the package that was given to us. So it doesn't really represent well as to what the colors are. So, but what I did is, and I think I previously mentioned, there's presently an Aroma Joe's on Route 6 in Bristol, Connecticut. It's a very similar building for the style and also the coloring. So we did include a photo of that building. This is actually the building in Bristol, so it's going to be very similar. So again, it's a one-story structure. It's only a little over 1,000 square feet. On this photo, the drive-through lanes are to your left. It has a gray brick veneer along the entire bottom. It's got a Hardy Paint clapboard painted in white for the upper portion. Then has this gable front entrance or front feature along the side. On this particular store in Southington, on this right side, that is where there will be a service window, so if somebody does want to walk up, they do have the potential to do that. But it's going to be basically the same building that you see over in Bristol today. In addition to, the other thing I'd like to bring up is with respect to comments that we received today, I should note that we revised the plans per the previous comments and submitted them yesterday, so your staff was very timely in reviewing them for today's meeting. We did receive some additional comments or remaining comments that we tried to address prior to the meeting, and I believe we got through the majority of them. But one of the big things that we're trying to deal with and try to figure out how to accommodate is, if I go to this photo here, there was a request that we have some kind of connection from the sidewalk system along Queen Street to the front of the store. Initially, so this would be, the south side is the front, this is a service window parking area. We had a sidewalk, or we have a sidewalk along this entire frontage. Initially, what we were hoping to do is extend that sidewalk across the drive-through lane and straight out to the sidewalk system. Believe it or not, we're changing the elevation of the site about a foot. We're raising it about a foot. In doing that, it made that piece of sidewalk non-ADA compliant. So Jeremy had actually brought up a good comment, and if we actually took a look at bringing a sidewalk further to the north, it allowed us to have additional length. So we did go back through that and actually revised on the plan. So off of the sidewalk on Queen Street, we would have this walkway that traverses this 1-foot slope to a ramp, then walk across the drive-through lane, and then to the front walk. So there could be a connection, there will be a connection between the sidewalks along Queen Street and this site. Everything else, the other comments that we received today seem to be minor in nature. The only one I really couldn't get to is there's a request that we add some additional landscaping along the front. I did not have time to take a good look at it and see what we can do, but talked to the applicant, and they are more than willing to work with the town staff and the commission to add additional landscape. It's probably going to consist in this island area between the building and the drive-through lane. We'll put additional shrubbery. The other things I'll note for traffic generation, you have a requirement that says if you have a use that generates more than 75 trips in the peak hour, then you need to basically have a traffic investigation report prepared. In this particular case, we have actual counts from the Bristol location, which is a very busy location compared to some of the others. In the peak hours, which tends to be 11 a.m. on a Sunday morning, their peak customer count is about 28. So we're significantly under the requirement of 75. So we have not prepared a traffic study as part of this. And the final thing I'll talk about is the operation itself. Again, it is a quick service coffee shop. It's primarily for drive-through. Hour of operation would be 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. With peaks that tend to happen are between about 7 and 11, and then another peak late afternoon. But again, that peak hour tends to be on a Sunday at about 11 a.m. is the highest peak based upon the Bristol store. So with that, I'm going to conclude my presentation and hopefully answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Jim. Just to clarify, your hours of operation is 5 to 9. Is that Monday, is that 7 days a week, or is that, so 7 days a week, so we're talking weekends as well as Monday through Friday, so, okay. Okay, and I appreciate that. I don't know if you want to get up and say anything, or I'm just going to open it up to commissioners for questions. Commissioners, any questions? Nick?
I have a few questions about signage and the driveways. On the north side of the building, is that a one-way, is that just an exit?
Yes, that's exit only.
Um,
And
do you-
again, it's set up as kind of an escape. We're not intending to use it regularly.
Yeah, are you planning on posting any signage there that it's intended for that use?
Yeah, there'd be do not enter signs on the opposite side.
I'm thinking more like that it's not just like, that it's not the intended exit or something to,
We could, but again, you know, the operation is a drive-through. So if you're coming to a facility for a drive-through, hopefully the intention is they're going to be going around the building. I mean, that's what we're looking to have our customers too, but we can add additional signage that, you know, main exit is onto Queen Street.
Because if, like to Nick's point,
Yeah.
if someone parks to walk up, how do you stop them from?
I'm thinking if someone's parked in like the drive-throughs queuing, that someone might try and go around and out that way, or that might become commonplace rather than using the Queen Street exit, and that obviously would be frustrating for neighboring properties.
Right. Yeah, we can
Let's,
we can add
whoa,
additional-
whoa, one person at a time. Nick has the floor right now. Nick, go ahead.
We can add additional signage.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then on the western driveway, with the exit, is there left turn prohibition for that?
No, it's presently full access. Ultimately, I should mention, ultimately needs to go to DOT for approval too, so, you know, they may have a say at that point, but presently it's full access.
And that isn't under our jurisdiction, we couldn't impose, yeah, I didn't think so.
So per the engineer's comments, it's a DOT road. DOT has the ultimate final say on whether we could suggest it as a stipulation in our approval, but ultimately it falls back to DOT as to whether they actually will prohibit a left turn or not.
Yeah, I would strongly suggest it because crossing two lanes of traffic in a 40-mile-an-hour road is, and then because there's only like 2-3 car lengths there from the drive-through, I see that being an issue if people are regularly taking left turns exiting on the western drive-through.
Again, we had to give your approval letter to the
Oh, yeah, I'm just-
DOT, so if.
I'm just
Want
suggesting.
to put it in, right, I mean, it is set up, again, this nice, looking at the photo, is there's already a break-in in the lines, so it's anticipated full access out to Queen Street.
All right. Yeah.
You all set?
Yeah.
Any other? Kat?
Thank you for including the customer count from the other location. So is this what you expect, give or take, in the Southington location?
Yes,
Okay,
although the Route 6 is a bit busier
right.
section of Queen Street. We hope
so-
it does just as well.
Okay, so 14 cars is your max in that drive-through queue. A lot of these intervals are higher than that 14. I know that an hour is a long period of time, but we're not going to be able to say whether any of these cars are going to be in your drive-through at a standard interval. Have we thought about what happens if there is a queue longer than 14 and what that would mean for a busy road like Queen Street?
I think based upon my experience in doing a lot of Dunkin' Donuts and other type of coffee shops through the course of the years, queuing for 14 vehicles is quite extensive. I'll be honest, I mean, you may recall, I did the Dunkin' Donuts on Waterbury Meriden Turnpike.
Jim, can you just talk?
Sorry. I'll be honest, I did the Dunkin' Donuts on Waterbury Meriden Turnpike in front of the movie theater pre-COVID. And if you recall that one, the only time we had any issue with the drive-through lane was when COVID hit, and you couldn't go in the store. We actually came back to you. We asked for a modification to that drive-through lane to accommodate that, which once things got back to normal, they never did it. That has similar queuing has never been an issue that I know of since, since COVID had, kind of gone away. I really doubt you'll ever see 14 cars. I know you're looking at a max count of 28 in the Bristol location over a 1 hour period. Mark, do you know what the typical turnaround time is for? Yeah, so even if it's a 5-minute interval to turn someone around, 14 is a lot of cars to have queued there. The only reason we're showing 14 vehicles is that's the state DOT requirement.
Is this location only going to serve beverages, or there'll be food service as well?
No prepared foods, if I'm correct. It's just beverages and right. Prepackaged breakfast sandwiches.
Okay. Thank you.
You all set? Hold on, no, the comments come from up here right now, okay? Kat, you all set?
Yes.
Okay, we'll ask him to make sure he talks into the mic a little
Trying.
bit louder, Jim. You gotta project the voice. Any other questions from members of the commission? Steve?
You've referenced the list of additional planning comments that you received today. You've addressed some of those. You're in agreement that you're fine with all those, so if that entire list of 1 through 8 was stipulated
Yeah.
in an approval, you would agree to
Yeah.
all that?
The only things that have not been incorporated on the plan at this point were the additional landscaping. So I've already addressed them, but as I mentioned, we will deal with, we will work with staff to add additional landscaping to their satisfaction.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Members of the commission? Caleb?
So I'm just going to take off of what Kat had asked, and this is more of how the facility is operated. You mentioned that you're going to do breakfast sandwiches. Is two things. One, will you have a hood system there? So are we going to be venting the sweet smell of cooked bacon into the neighborhood? Okay.
Come up to the mic.
Yeah, so we.
Well, let's start with the name and address first, please.
So this is Mark McGregor. I'm one of the owners and operators of Aroma Joe's, and my address is 91 Daisy Circle in Bristol, Connecticut. So we have 2 ovens, and they're basically like if you go to like a Subway, like the Turbo Chefs, that are just little ovens that we put in there. So there's no overhead systems or anything like that.
Okay. And then, don't go anywhere. This is the same one for you. the menu that you have, is it going to require that you have an AGRU installed?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is it going to require that you have an AGRU installed, a grease trap?
Yes, and we do have a grease trap on the property as well right now.
So the grease trap is there. Where's the waste container for that grease going to go? Next to the garbage can?
So I believe it's an outdoor grease trap that we're going to have on the top left corner of the property.
Northeast?
Yes, northwest.
Northwest. Okay. So there's
It's not a grease trap that's in the building, it's an external grease trap, it's buried underground.
subsurface tank.
Yep, yeah, so
So
it's,
you're going to tie into the existing 500-gallon tank?
no, this is a new tank that's going in.
Oh, okay.
So we're putting a new tank, a 1,000-gallon tank in this location here.
Perfect. Oh, good. All right. So that,
So
the
there's
reason
no-
why I
there's
was
no
going
green-
with
yeah,
that
there's
question,
no-
line of questioning is that if there was nuisance odors, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't close to the property line. You've addressed that because it's subsurface.
Right.
Perfect. I got more questions. So can you just, and I don't believe I heard you talk about them. Can you talk a little bit about the lighting schedule for the property?
Yeah, so we did submit a lighting plan. All lighting fixtures will be high efficiency, full cutoff, dark sky compliant fixtures, LED. We did submit a lighting plan as part of photometrics plan, as part of the package to demonstrate we don't have spillage of lighting onto adjoining properties. In addition to what we're doing, now we have the row of evergreens and the solid fence, which further restricts lighting. When I go out there today and been to Rita's, believe me, in the past, I think the lighting system today consists of a floodlight, from what I've seen on the building that lights the parking lot. There's no floodlights. It's all perimeter lighting, shines back into the site, so it's a lot more efficient, a lot better for neighboring properties than this spotlight or the floodlight that exists out there today.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's see. So I've asked this question of other applicants before. If the possibility arises, and we've all seen it happen because I've planted them before and they've done it to me, if the abrevieties die, is there some assurance that we can have that they'll be replanted?
I don't know if you can bond it. That would be the only option.
It's something that
Right.
it's something that's happened that I've seen before that I want to have some assurance that I appreciate the abrevieties. I think it's going to look great.
Yep.
And I think with the fence there, it's really going to help.
Right.
But I hate to see that, in after the 1-year warranty is up on these trees that get put in, all of a sudden on year 2, we have a big yellow stick hanging out there.
Sure. I mean,
so-
the only thing I think is if it can get bonded for a period, for at least a couple growing seasons to ensure that it's going to survive.
Could we stipulate for a 5-year period that if they were to die, that the owner of the property, that sounds terrible.
That's a building department issue, correct? Or
Well, what I would say is that they become part of the approved site plan, and so as part of that, they'd have to maintain whatever it is, 20, 24, however many it is. So if one were to die off, and I'm betting that the business would want to replace them because visually they're not going to look good, but if we got a complaint, then we could act on it because the site plan fell out of compliance and force it.
Perfect. Thank you. And, last question. So, can you put up the queuing, queue, please? There we go. So if I wanted to park, if I pulled in and I wanted to park on the right side, and that line is queued out, I'm kind of stuck there for a little while.
That's why those spaces are intended for employees.
Oh, okay.
We can mark them as such, too.
Perfect, even better. All my questions have been satisfied. Thank you,
You all
Mr. Chair.
set? Cat, item number 2 here.
One more. I want to go back to the access easement, and this may be a staff question. So I understand that we're looking at it for emergency reasons.
Cat, can I get you to talk into the mic, please?
Yes, I'm sorry. So I want to talk about the access easement. I understand that we're trying to use that for emergencies. Queen Terrace's entryway is the bus stop for all residents for school purposes. And do we have a way to put some physical barrier there if it's only intended for emergency purposes? Or is that going to create an issue for an emergency? Meaning some kind of gate that can open if it truly is needed, if there is a fire in the structure. I'm concerned about the fact that I used to drive by this all the time. The kids are out there in the morning.
I don't know if we can block it off permanently or.
Not permanently,
well, not
but
even
some
permanent.
kind of-
Again, it's intended for an escape. I mean, if someone drives into the facility and say, I'm at the wrong place, I don't want to get into the drive-through lane, we can pull through. We're not intending to have every customer go through that driveway, but we definitely have an access easement.
Well-
We definitely have an access
Please.
easement to that driveway and a right to use that driveway. This piece was cut out of the piece that the apartments or condos are built on. And that was the purpose, so they can access. this- yeah,
Understood.
yeah.
It's,
And again, doing the sign restriction, please use Queen Street as an exit. We can do something like that, I think to block it off, because the problem is if someone gets to the back of the site and they're starting to go around the drive-through and say, I don't want to be here, well, now you're in a one-way circulation, you need to go through the drive-through lane or through the extra area in the drive-through lane to make that circulation out. I'd like to have some, especially, if we didn't have any easement there, it'd be a different story, but we do have a right to it. So we'd like to use it for just an escape. And again, it's not going to be every customer coming to this facility that's going to be using it.
You all set?
Okay, yep.
Okay. Anyone else?
I have just something to
Nick,
follow that really quick.
second time.
Sorry
Go.
again with the signs. Yeah, perhaps a watch for school children or something like that by that, just,
Obviously.
Yeah,
Just
to be safe. But,
We're open parents that we're waiting to drop off their kids to come over for a cup of coffee.
yeah, yeah.
That was one of the
That's
nice
what you'd
parts
hope
about
for.
making that sidewalk connection. So when we're waiting there, they can walk over.
You all set? Anyone else? Comments? Okay. Right turn only, so I'll go off of something that Nick talked about earlier. Right turn onlys on streets like this is something that this commission has traditionally asked applicants to do. There's precedent here for right turn only. Both car washes on the opposite side of the street have right turn only requirements and signs on their exits. Whether somebody takes a left turn out of there, I mean, we don't police that stuff. We leave that to our police department to do that. But I would ask ask the commission to stipulate that. Ultimately, I understand it's up to DOT to decide whether they're going to allow that or not. But I think that from a safety perspective, it makes sense to do a right turn only on this. I share that with my commission members as a possible stipulation to this, and I'll ask you for your reaction if you have any or none.
I mean,
That's fine.
obviously, we prefer to have full, sorry to jump on you, but sorry, we prefer to have full access to the Queen Street. The one thing I would bring up is if we do restrict right turn only, and people become familiar with it, and they want to make a left turn, it's going to kind of promote them to actually go to the driveway to the north and use that for their left turn out. Whereas if we don't restrict it, it's going to kind of prevent promoting the use of that driveway to the north.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I agree with that, but I understand your point. I put it out there. We'll see what happens in a couple of minutes perhaps when we move on this, if we do tonight. Access easements up and down main corridors in Southington are typically required for a number of purposes, not the least of which is safety, to allow another way for emergency personnel to get in and out of there if they needed to, and one of those, the driveway was blocked for whatever reason. I'm glad to see that you have one on the north side. I would ask that we put one on the south side as well. I'm not asking that you necessarily install it right now. I understand that there's a building there, and it kind of defeats the purpose if you were to put it on there, but I think in terms of the plan, I'd like to see one, I personally, and again, this is up to the commission, I personally would like to see one on the south side there as well, just in the event that sometime down the road, we have an opportunity and something else develops on the south side there, that at that point, we can allow for an access easement on that side as well, because I think it benefits not only your property, but it also, I think, benefits that property on the south side as well. So I'll throw that out there. The dumpster that you have there in the back southeast corner, is that enclosed?
It's an enclosure, a fenced enclosure, a matched fence that's around the perimeter of the property.
It's enclosed, 5-foot fence, I think you said? Yeah,
And then
okay.
swinging gates, correct.
All right. And the vehicle queuing, 14, I think, is the number that you threw out there. I-
14 is a requirement in DOT, so we may have to make sure we can accommodate that as part of the site plan before.
I feel relatively comfortable with that number, and I'm glad that you're repositioning the building the way that you are to allow for that, because I think if you were to leave it where it is right now, it'd be challenging, let's put it
Yes,
that way. We do have a Dunkin' facility in Plantsville Center that is a similar setup where it's only drive up and walk up only. They don't do in-building service. And I believe the queuing at that location is roughly about the same. It might be a little bit less. And I've never seen it back up onto the street. I don't imagine that this would really back up onto the street, because even if they're coming in, it's not like they're staying there for the full hour. They're circulating out as they get their order and move on. So I'm happy about that. I'm happy about that you included the vinyl fence around there, because I think it's important to shield people from headlights is one of the concerns, especially in the winter months, so that those lights don't shine into people's windows or residences. So I'm happy that you've done that as well. There's currently a business there. This business is allowed, to Jeremy, this business is allowed per our regulations in the business zone, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Have all of the planning and engineering department comments been met to your satisfaction to date, with the exception of the ones that remain outstanding that the applicant noted earlier?
But yeah, planning comments has been satisfied with the exception of the landscaping, which I did speak with Mr. Cassidy earlier in the day, and they committed to filling that in. It was just, our comments got to them afternoon today, and he did a great job in terms of getting most of the rest of it on there. So yeah, we're satisfied.
Jim, are your comments satisfied?
Engineering comments have been addressed. The drainage report is still under review. We wanted to just give a final review before it went to the Connecticut DOT, who will also critique it.
So if we decide to act on this tonight, if it would be appropriate for us to stipulate that they should work out any outstanding issues with staff to the staff's satisfaction, you guys would be comfortable with that as well?
Yes.
Okay. Jeremy, yeah, you good with that?
Yes.
The last thing I'll say is that I think it was Kat who brought up that there is a bus stop out there on Queen Terrace, right in that driveway up on the northern part. You see that over to the left there. That is a bus stop for all the residents, the kids in that residence up there. I believe that the trailer park to the south side, I think that might be 55 and older.
This is apartments to the south.
But in any event, safety concerns with kids out there, right? You're not responsible for policing that people are actually going to abide by traffic laws and be safe when they're driving around kids. That falls on other people. But I do think it's important to note that there are, I don't want to call them concerns necessarily, but we need to be cautious in that area. So anything that can be done from an engineering perspective as traffic calming, I think would be in the best interest of everybody.
Sure. Again, I think signage is appropriate. We can do things like even consider putting a speed bump, although it's actually a little bit of a climb coming out of that little driveway. Again, this is just kind of escape, but do other things to kind of deter people from using it. You'll see it's got a pretty steep angle on it. That was mainly to prevent people from trying to make a right turn back up into the apartments and getting lost, to force them to go to the left. But something else we can work on staff to come up with other traffic calming effects.
We have an access easement between Worldwide Liquors and 7-Eleven further north on Queen Street. I believe that when that site plan was approved for 7-Eleven, they included a speed bump on that access easement. That may be a good way to get people
Right.
to slow down, hopefully, although I've seen people drive crazy in areas where they don't slow down. But, I mean, again, you can't police everybody in the world, but we do our best to try to accommodate everybody as best as we can. So anything else to add?
No, I don't. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you guys rescheduling this meeting. I know it's been a tough week here, so I really appreciate moving forward with this application.
We appreciate your flexibility with that as well. So anything else from the commission at this time? We're gonna look to see if we're ready for action in a second. But before the applicant leaves, I want to give the commission members another opportunity to ask any questions of them. Is there any other
Might be for
questions of the
discussion.
applicant?
Actually, maybe this is just a question for staff. So would a speed hump be something that we would consider, or do we,
I think we did that in the 7-Eleven thing. We stipulated that be a piece of it, and the applicant in that case was willing. I think that the applicant here has expressed that they're willing to do that as well. So, you know, ultimately, Caleb, to answer your question, it's up to us.
very good. Thank
That's
you.
why you get paid the big bucks.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but any other questions of the applicant from members of the commission at this time? Are we ready to proceed on this application? Is there anyone who objects to us proceeding on this application right now? Not seeing anybody, we'll look for a motion then.
Make a motion to approve SPR 1878 with the following stipulations. That, let's see, to install parking-only signs at the southern section of the property, that a south side easement for access be included, that the drainage report for engineering be completed, that a speed hump be installed at the northern emergency exit. I think I might have missed one.
Bonding for the arborvitae's and also driveway to the, like a,
Oh, and a, sorry, thank you, and a no left turn sign from the Queen Street access. The
exit.
exit, correct.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Did we miss anything on the stipulations?
There's a motion with several stipulations, but
Well,
do
did
we?
we miss
do-
any
I'm
stipulations
looking.
that anyone else was thinking of? I'll
Covered
second.
everything.
Okay. We have a second. Is there any discussion? Anything? No?
I
Nick?
could just address the public. So just to let you know, this is only for the site plan. There's still other steps in the process where there's going to be public comment, everything like that. So I just want to make you aware that this isn't.
No. I don't think so, Nick. No,
No.
The site
So
plan
there's
is all,
no-
it's,
There's no
This is it.
special permitting or anything like that?
this is a special permit
Okay.
for the site plan.
Okay.
Again, as I said earlier, if there's anything that we missed or you feel you want to talk about, by all means, you have the right to go to our planning. Jeremy down there is the head of our planning department. Speak to him. The applicants here, you know, we're a relatively medium-sized town, I would say. We're not a big town, but I like the small town charm that we have here. I think the applicant in that interest and in that vein would be willing to entertain any comments that you might have and try to work with y'all to make sure that it meets that. But there is no public input allowed on a site plan application typically.
Apologies for the confusion.
Yeah.
folks. I was thinking special permit.
Okay. Anything else from members of the commission before we ask for a roll call on this? I'll just say that the business there, well, you know, that is currently there now, right now, has been a good one. I enjoyed it. Kind of sad to see it go. I'm happy that this other business is coming in. I think that the way that the site is designed here is thoughtful, and I think that it's going to make that section of Queen Street a little bit, I'll use the word cleaner, although Rita's was not dirty by any stretch. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I think that it's going to look a little bit cleaner, and the positioning of the building here, I think, works better for this site and for its intended purpose. I did drive by the Bristol site recently, and I was impressed with the way that was set up, and I think this one's going to be similar. With that, we'll ask for a roll call.
Commissioner Tedesco,
Yes.
Commissioner Coles.
Yes.
Commissioner Sewell,
Yes.
Commissioner Ma,
Yes.
Commissioner Caird,
No.
Commissioner Walowski,
Yes.
Chair Hammersley.
Hammersley's a yes. Motion carries 6-1. Congratulations. Best of luck. Moving on to item 9B, release of public improvement bond, $30,000, ESPN satellite facility property located at Town Line Road, SPR 1435. Before we go on this, a question from members of the commission earlier. Is it possible for us to do all of these as one large consent calendar item?
Yes, I just ask that you ask staff if they have any particular comments to make on any of them before you
make that motion.
Okay, so we haven't had a motion on this one yet. Is there any comments from staff about any of these bonds that they want to bring to our attention?
I just want to point out that some of the bonds are old, with expired site plans. Most of the bond releases, the work is completed. So that kind of explains, except the last one would be a reduction in the current bond that's under construction for Mark Lovely's development, Winchester Estates. That's included in this.
So do you want to take that last one up separately?
Totally up to you. I just
What's the-
explained
what's-
that
let's do
that's
that.
an active
Okay.
subdivision.
So we have items 9B, C, D, E, F, and G. That's a total of 6 items. Is the commission okay with taking those up collectively as one consent calendar? Or is there
Yes.
objection to that? If anyone objects to it, I'm happy to go through each one separately, but,
No.
all right. So can we get a motion on items 9B, C, D, E, F, and G?
I'd like to make a motion to accept as a consent items 9, B, C, D, E, F, and G.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 9H, reduction of $297,500 Phase 1 subdivision bond to a new amount of $170,000, a reduction of $112,050 Phase 2 subdivision bond to a new amount of $30,000 Winchester Estates S1334. Is this ready for action?
Ready for action based on work completed to date.
Okay, and this is out the Churchill Road area, I believe, is where this one is. Is there a motion?
I mean, the reasoning behind it is just to reduce the amount that the bond is, like, just for their benefit, right?
Yeah,
Everything's, nothing's out of compliance,
Basically, the
anything.
major item left is the final paving for both phases.
Okay, and the proposed new amount would cover that or be, okay.
Correct.
Yep.
And it's the developer's intent to have those roads accepted in the next couple of months.
Excellent. Thanks.
Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion, we accept item H, reduction of bond for estates, Winchester Estates, S number 1334.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Sewell with a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Administrative items, anything?
No, nothing to report.
I appreciate everyone's flexibility in coming out tonight. I think that the Tuesday thing would have been tough for everybody, not the least of which logistically it probably would have been tough as well. So, but I appreciate everyone's flexibility and everyone's help during that trying week that we all went through recently. And with that, I have nothing. We look for a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?